Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It's Rabbi Stephen here. Rav Shmuel ben Yehoshua, yes, Rashbi in the house. And as you can see, I finally learned how to trim my beard. So hopefully this will say. I'm leaning my head down so you can see the yarmulke on there. So hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. I know that some people have asked the question that people ask Jews, do you celebrate Thanksgiving? And the answer is yes, we do. So I remember a few years ago, somebody had said that the rabbis actually discussed the idea of Thanksgiving because the Jewish Thanksgiving is, that's right, Sukkah. That's our Thanksgiving. That's when we celebrate the harvest, among other things. When we put up the hut, we're putting up the vegetables and the gourds and all that stuff. And, one of the reasons we're doing it is because it's the fall bounty of harvesting the crops. And that's part of what it is. So is Thanksgiving a religious holiday? No, it's an American holiday. Are there elements of religion in it? Yeah, kind of, but not enough really to say, okay, it belongs to this or that body of thought. So it's very, very general. And the rabbi said, yeah, not a problem. Jews celebrate Thanksgiving. Part of your culture, part of your American heritage, go for it. So I just wanted to mention that. So I've got another question, and this is a little up for discussion. But here's a question to all of you, and I welcome any feedback you want to give, and if you want to share it with other folks, we can do that as well. But here's the question. What would you like to see happen with the Jewish community in our area, in the Southwest Riverside County area, like Elsinore, Marietta, Temecula, Wildomar, French Valley, Menifee, Rainbow, um, all those areas, Fallbrook. So I'm curious what your thoughts are. I know that there's right now some scattering. There's a few congregations and they're struggling a little bit. Is that something you'd like to see continue? Would you like to see one main congregation? Whatever your thoughts are. Let's just make it open ended and however you want to discuss it. Okay. So, all right. So this week's Torah portion, Vayeitzei. Vayeitzei, and he went out. Jacob went out. And as my good friend Lauren remembers from her bat mitzvah, he went out and he left his area, left his parents, because he had supposedly stolen, and I put that in quotes because I'm not so sure that he did, the birthright of his older brother Esau. And Esau is really angry because he fooled his father Isaac to give him the blessing, and now he's kind of on the run. And his mother Rebecca says, "Go back to my family and find a wife there." And he goes to the family. He ends up, of course, by a well, like they all do, and he meets his soulmate, as they all do, or at least one of them. He meets Rachel, who he immediately falls in love with. And kisses her. That's the Middle Eastern custom. That don't let anybody get excited. It's different time, different customs. Okay. And he introduces himself. She takes him back to her father, who is Rebecca's brother Laban. So this is a cousin. And he asks for her hand in marriage, and Laban says, well, you got to work for me for a few years, for 7 years, and then I'll give you her. And instead, he disguises the bride, gives her Leah, and says it's the custom of our people to have the older sister marry first. At that point, there weren't any restrictions on marrying sisters. So he has his honeymoon, his 7 days, and then Laban allows him to marry Rachel, his preferred wife, but he says, you got to work for me another 7 years, which he does, and then he works another 5 years or so, or 6 years, so that he can amass some flock to start his own family, because at that point, 11 of 12 of his kids have been born, and he goes out. So Leah is upset because she knows that Jacob doesn't love her as much, and she prays to God, and God opens up her womb first, and she has in this order Reuben, Shimon, Levi, and Judah. And then Rachel sees that she's not getting pregnant, so she gives her concubine, her handmaiden Zilpah, to Jacob, and he has 2 sons, which is Dan and Naphtali. Okay. And then Leah gives Jacob her handmaiden Bilhah, and he has 2 sons, which I believe was Issachar And Don, no, we had Ron. Okay, so I know this is a test I failed. Sorry. And then finally, Rachel does get pregnant, and she has Joseph. Yosef, God has added to me, and there's 11 sons, and Leah also has a daughter, Dinah. Not much is mentioned about her, about just she had her and that's it. Whereas the other children, there's a reason why she gives the names, like Reuven. Reuven, God has seen my flight and has seen and given me a son. Reu, I've seen Vain, I've seen a son. Shimon, Shema, because God has heard me. Levi, because I always thought it was my heart, Levi, my heart, but God has heard my plight and has given me peace. And Yehuda comes from the word Hodah, which means thanks. She's giving thanks. Okay, so and all of them have spiritual names, have reasons for that name. So a couple of things is interesting in this portion. First of all, let's go back to the beginning. Okay, so you've heard the term Jacob's ladder. Jacob falls asleep, puts a rock there, prays to God before he goes to sleep, and some people say, this is Jacob instituting the Ma'ariv, the evening service. Whereas Isaac was standing in the field praying when Eliezer brought Rebekah home to him, and that was the afternoon service. And Abraham, put up a rock, put up an altar when he discovered, or when he realized, when he recognized the idea of the one God of Hashem, and he instituted the Shachrit, or the morning prayer. Shachar means dawn. The afternoon service is called Mincha. Now, afternoon is Saharayim. Why isn't it called Saharayim? Because in the temple they would give an offering, and the Hebrew word for that offering was Mincha. And that was the offering that they gave right before dawn, so it's the Mincha offering. In fact, some rabbis, when they're davening Mincha, will wait right before that sun goes down, and then they'll do the Mincha, and that's called Mincha Ketana. You have two Mincha times, Mincha Gedolah, which is right after noon, and Mincha Ketana, which is toward the end of the actual day before the sun. And then, of course, you got the Ma'ariv, when either the sun goes down or there's 3 stars. You can use either one, but you have to be consistent. So the point is that God says to Jacob in a dream that I will make you a great nation. Tribes will come out of your loins, and he does, and he has ultimately 12 sons. Benjamin gets born later on, and these are the tribes that become Israel, or become Judah, right? Judah, Israel, whatever the country was named, or the area. Each area was named by its tribe. This is the area. This is the Judah. This is the area of Benjamin. And you see, they were called by the names of their tribes. So, for me personally, as a rabbi, I've always had kind of an issue, kind of a challenge understanding what went on between this portion and the last portion. So in the last portion, Esau came out first. He was therefore, according to customs and according to almost our laws as they become, entitled to the lion's share of the inheritance. But what's the lion's share of the inheritance? The inheritance was that whole heritage, this culture that we're developing of acknowledging the one God. Esau clearly not up to the challenge. It wasn't in his makeup. So Rebekah went and she saw that Jacob was in each time a simple man and, quote unquote deceived. And I'm not sure Isaac was so deceived. I mean, I've been married to my wife for over 30 years, and she knows exactly what I'm thinking, and I kind of know what she's thinking. You get that way. And these two were a lot older than that. They've been married 50, 60 years. You don't think they knew what each other was up to? But the point is, in my mind, Isaac had to kind of go along with it because he knew kind of in his heart that, as much as he loved Esau, and Esau would make gain and cook it up such that he loved, he knew that really Jacob was really up to the task. And Jacob was up to the task, as we start seeing now, because Esau goes off and he marries pagans, and Jacob takes very good care to go to his family, to his clan, and find a wife that was going to suit him, that could carry on all of this. And in fact, at the beginning of our portion, Vayeitzei, he has a dream, and God comes to him. God didn't say, hey, look, I know you deceived it, but, I'm going to do this anyway. God said, no, I've chosen you. And later he gives him the name Israel. So this whole idea, okay, and the reason I bring this up is because what happens now? Jacob goes and works for Laban for a grand total of 20 years. And when Jacob is leaving Laban at the end of this portion, he says to him, you've deceived me, count 100 times. And the idea of 100 is not that it was exactly, not that he was keeping count, but the idea of 100 is that it's so many times. So Some of the sages say, well, Jacob, I'm sorry, deceived Isaac to get the birthright, and now it's his turn. I'm sorry, I don't buy that. I know that we have some hard times in life, people, and it gets as intense as people lose loved ones at an early age. And they say, why? And they lose their faith in God. And I get that. I understand the resentment, the anger, you know? But things happen for a reason, okay? We just lost our friend Sherry, and we had plans. We were going to do things, with the Jewish area and establish maybe, I don't know, have different services and stuff. And she was great at fundraising, and she's gone. And God's leaving it up to us now. He says, I want Sherry. So you guys are on your own. Okay, do we have resentment, or do we just say, okay, we understand that we don't understand? That's the idea of the Yud Hey Vav Hey. We don't understand. It's ineffable. It's beyond our comprehension. But we have to accept it. We have to accept our lot in life. And that's why the funeral service opens with that. So Jacob was in this position. He did the best of it. He did the best that he could. He did great. In fact, he thrived. See? So, that's a lesson. God gives us lemons, you make lemonade. And I leave that with you. As you go forth for this week, hope you have a great week. Hope you are having a great week. Shabbat Shalom. And remember that within each challenge is an opportunity to thrive. Shabbat Shalom.